You're listening to the BBM Global Network with 25 years in broadcast audio and video production. Our passionate team creates content and marketing for the world of Internet Talk Radio. If you've got a passion, come join us at bbmglobalnetwork.com. The BBM Global Network. Your voice is now heard.
Jim Green, a motivational Catholic speaker and life coach from New Jersey, is here. He's a former emergency room psychiatric counselor with 30 years of experience in helping others to find hope, motivation, and inspiration. Now, please welcome the host of Monday Morning Motivation, Jimmy Green.
Good morning, good Monday morning. Welcome to Monday Morning Motivation with Jimmy Green. I'm your host, Jimmy Green. And we're coming to you live on Bold Brave TV. So welcome back. It's been a great week. I just wanted to welcome everyone to the show, and I want to just give a little idea what we're going to talk about today. Been praying a lot lately over the anniversary of 9/11. I want to talk about leadership and what that's all about, especially specifically in regard to when you think about back to that day on 9/11, people were leaders, but then there were people who really, had to step up. And one of the reasons this topic resonates so much with me in regards to 9/11 is because, I live very close by to where all that took place 20 years ago. And I was just over there yesterday at Ground Zero visiting some of the sites and seeing the people going get through the names and so forth. So that was a very inspiring thing to do. One of the reasons that, again, 9/11 resonates with me is because of these four people right here. My dad is here. And my other three uncles were all firemen in Hoboken, New Jersey. And I grew up in and around a lot of firemen and policemen. And they were leaders in their own right. Three of them served in the Army, one in the Navy. I looked up to them and to the men that they exposed me to as a young boy growing up, police and firemen. Every year we would have what they call a communion breakfast. And typically that would be at our church, Our Lady of Grace in Hoboken. And they'd have a speaker, and the firemen and the policemen would all get together once a year on that occasion. And I learned a lot from those men and women. And one of the things I admired most about them was the fact that they run towards the danger when everyone else is running away. And that's what leaders do. And so today I'm going to talk about leadership. And one of my favorite quotes about leadership as we start the show is, a true leader is one who knows the way, who shows the way, and goes the way. Let me say that again. A true leader is one who knows the way, who goes the way, and shows the way. Just an example from my own life. When I was a manager, when I eventually became a manager in psychiatric emergency services, one of the things I promised to myself as a leader, my style of leadership was more servant leadership, where I wanted to serve the people that were in my care, I don't want to say underneath me, but those who I managed. And one of the main things that I learned about leadership is that I never asked anybody to do something I wasn't willing to do myself. And I hope my colleagues, perhaps can recall that. So a leader is one who knows the way, goes the way, and shows the way. Now, in regards to perhaps 9/11, let's think back a little bit. Who were some of the people that emerged that day? Well, certainly Rudy Giuliani, the mayor of the city at the time, had a tremendous amount of pressure immediately put on him to make decisions that were life and death decisions, and so takes a lot of motivation and a lot of quick thinking on your feet. Bernie Kerik, the police, I believe it was the police chief at the time, closing down the city, things that had to be done by leaders who had to really step up that day. The men and women, the policemen, the firemen, the first responders, even the people, the civilians had to become leaders that day as well. And so I remember them. One of the things persons that I admire a lot is a priest that his name is Father Michael Judge. It's a book I picked up yesterday. It's called The Book of Michael, The Surprising Life and Heroic Death of Father Michael Judge. He was a Franciscan priest. He was the chaplain of the NYFD, New York Fire Department. And I was just reading a little bit last night, and he could very well have withdrew from the scene. In fact, when he was talking to Mayor Giuliani, Mayor said, maybe you should leave the scene. And Father Michael Judge, being a true leader, stepped up and said, no, I have to be with my men. And subsequent to that, he was ministering to people in and around the area that day. And he apparently suffered a heart attack during it. So there was a lot of, stress during that time. But I admire the fact that he too ran towards the danger when most everyone else was running away. And so I'm going to share more about that book in a future show. But Father Michael Judge actually was stationed before he went to New York. He was stationed in a church nearby here named St. Joseph's Church in East Rutherford. And there was a story there where there was an incident where he was called upon by the police department because they couldn't get through to a husband that was having a difficult situation, domestic situation with his wife. As the story goes, as I was told, the police called him and said, "Father, we need your help. We have a man that's threatening to harm his wife." And so in true leader fashion, Father Michael apparently went to the home. They apparently had to put up a ladder to the second floor of the place that he responded to. And here, if you know, Franciscans wear a long brown robe, and he had to apparently lift his robe to climb the ladder to talk the gentleman out of doing something awful that day. And so that's a leader. He knew the way, he went the way, and he showed the way. So that's what I admire about Father Michael Judge and all those men, women who are our first responders. So I wanted to give a shout out to them today. Obviously, it's a day that none of us will ever forget. And yet I think there's a lot of lessons to be learned, unfortunately, out of tragedy. Oftentimes, some positive things can come out of it. If you recall, after 9/11, there was a lot of emotions going throughout the country and the world, really. Particularly one of them was the unity that we saw, the ability to reach out and help someone regardless of race, color, creed, no creed, ethnicity. There was a unity that took over our nation as a result of that tragedy. As I've said before on the show, oftentimes our biggest breakdowns in life can become our biggest breakthroughs. And certainly on a day like that, a lot of people could have just broke down and stayed there, but we continued to fight forward. I hope we continue to learn that lesson. I've been praying over that a lot, the need for unity amongst us. It's such a key point of leadership, is being able to unify the team. And as a people, unity is going to be a key. I feel through my recent prayers and reflection over the last a few months and weeks. Also like to talk a little bit today about football. Football fever is back. Football is back. I'm sorry about last week. I forgot it was Labor Day. I was going to talk about the Fighting Irish, my team there. They had a win over Florida State, and it was good to have football back. People in the stadiums coming out and living life, and it's interesting as a former football player to hear the crowd roar again. As a player, I mean, I guess there's nothing that can compare to that when a whole group of people is united. You know, we all have different teams, you know, but at the end of the day, we shake hands, win, lose, draw, whatever. And that's the greatness about America, I think, is that even in 9/11, if you think back, you know, baseball really galvanized us as a nation. You know, the Yankees, I think, were in the World Series at that time, and people knew that although we had been hit very hard, we had to move forward and continue each day to fight as we do today. So anyone who wants to perhaps talk about some football today, I'm open to that as well. What else did I want to talk about today? Let's see here. Again, just the whole idea of, you know, like I said, this show is about motivation and inspiration. It's about self-help. It's about personal growth. As we go forward, there's some other topics that I'll bring to the fore as well. I'm thinking of, you know, I'll talk more about it at the end of the show, but there's some other books that I'd like to review for you. One typically that I love, because I love small books. I can't read with ADD. I don't do well with big books. But one of the books that I want to review in the future is Happiness is an Inside Job by John Powell, S.J. He was a Jesuit priest. And I'll be talking about that more in another show. But the basic premise of that book is that happiness is and always has been an inside job. To the extent that we reach outside ourselves, we look for the money, the fame, the accolades, the cars, the homes, all these things that we think are going to make us happy really don't amount to that. So it's to the extent that we reach outside ourselves for happiness, is to that same extent, he says, that we are doomed to failure. So H equals IJ, happiness is an inside job, and we'll talk about that in the future as well. I'd like to hear from you too. The number to call the show is 866-451-1451. You're listening to Monday Morning Motivation with Jimmy Green on Bold Brave TV. And we'll be right back on the other side of the break.
What if there were a super tiny device that could diagnose the brain and is smaller than a single human hair? What if you could see inside the brain to help an epilepsy patient during surgery, or to help the fight against Parkinson's disease? Dr. Patricia Broderick is proud to announce the Broderick Probe, a biomedical and electronic breakthrough. Imagine a probe to help with the understanding and potential cure of brain-related diseases. To learn more, listen live to the Easy Sense radio show with host Dr. Broderick, Wednesdays, 7 p.m. Eastern on the Bold Brave Media Network and TuneIn Radio. And to help support the Broderick Foundation, please go to EasySense.com and learn how, with your help, we can fight these horrific brain disorders. That's EasySense.com to learn more and help support the Broderick Foundation. Author, radio show host, and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness, Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth, published by iUniverse. Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them, rediscover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies, find settings that allow them to be the most productive, and track their progress towards accomplishing goals. Listen to John Hawkins' My Strategy, Saturdays, 1 p.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio.
Hey, welcome back to Monday Morning Motivation with Jimmy Green. I'm your host, Jimmy Green. We're coming to you live on Bold Brave TV. So today we're discussing leadership and what it means to be a leader. I think some of the qualities that leaders have. Think of some of the, the great leaders, in history. Again, as I said in the first segment, a leader is one who knows the way, goes the way, and shows the way. So the number to call the show is 866-451-1451. I'd like to hear from you, see if you have any thoughts on leadership. Who are some of the best leaders that you thought of over time? One of the some of the qualities of leadership are, I guess, being able to serve the people that are under us. And I don't mean that to say under us. I don't know if there's a better way to say it, but when one comes into a leadership role, I was listening to John Maxwell this morning, one of my other favorite motivational speakers, John Maxwell. He writes these little books, motivational books, and he was talking about leadership. And he was talking about servant leadership. And sometimes when we get a title, let's say manager or CEO or captain, whatever it might be, the assumption sometimes is that people will just automatically follow us because we have a title. And he went on to say that that's not necessarily the case. People don't follow what we say necessarily. They follow more what we do. And so again, it's action. Our actions speak louder than words. And so think about it this. I've never been in battle, but I would, if I were ever in battle, I would want to have a leader who was confident, someone who I could trust, someone who was battle tested and knew what he was doing out there, and someone who, again, was not going to ask me to do something that he or she would not necessarily do themselves. And so trust is a big thing too with leadership. If I'm the leader and people that I'm asking to follow me can't trust me, they're gonna have a lot of difficulty getting those people to follow my lead. So again, as I say, most of the time, people look at what we do and not what we say. And I always, I have examples, and I'm not saying I'm not trying to pat myself on the back, but to give an example, when I worked in the emergency room, I worked, as you know, in psychiatric emergency services for almost 30 years. And invariably, there would be days that were not busy for whatever reason. And then there were days where we would say, my colleagues and I would say, we were getting slammed. And when I became a manager, some people used to fault me for doing this, but let's say it was my time to leave at the end of the day, 5 o'clock, and we were getting slammed that day. And usually it would be one counselor coming in for the next shift. And I always felt it difficult, let's say if there were 5 people in the emergency room, 6 people in the emergency room, to just walk out and say, see you later, I'm the manager, bye-bye. I had a difficulty with that. And so a lot of times my wife would get upset. I'd be getting home late a lot, but I would generally say, hey, you take 3, I'll take 3 patients, and we'll meet in the middle. And as I say, teamwork is part of being a leader as well. Being a team player, it's not that, I often say team stands for together, everyone achieves more. And in what we're talking about today in leadership and the aftermath of 9/11. Think about the 9/12 effect. How everybody came together and helped one another. So, as a leader, you want to be try to be a team player and not just say, hey, I have the title, as John Maxwell was talking about this morning. So that means you have to follow me. That's not always the case. So servant leadership is being able to have a plan of action, a good plan of action, what you want to do, and serve the people that are in your care better than saying they're under me. I have a title, so they have to do as I say. They might do it, but they might not necessarily want to do it. Well, that's one of the things that John Maxwell was talking about in leadership too, is a leader is one who can make people do things they don't necessarily want to do and like doing it. Because things are difficult everywhere we go in life. And so when you are in that type of a position, for instance, in football, this is a funny story. There's accountability. You have to be accountable as a leader, right? So I have a quick funny story. Coach Agresta will remember this one. Probably he may not, but I was at Hudson Catholic in Jersey City, and I was one of the co-captains along with our quarterback, Paul Chwanek, who was a great leader as well. And one day I got on the train from Hoboken, my hometown, and I was going to Jersey City, and I said, oh, I'm running late. I'll take the train. It'll get me there quicker. And I get on the train. I'm half asleep. Next thing you know, I hear Christopher Street, 9th Street. So here I am, a captain. I'm late for practice. Now I'm on 9th Street in New York City when I'm supposed to be in Jersey City, New Jersey. So I have to jump off the train, get on the next train, go back to New Jersey, get to Journal Square in Jersey City. Those of you who know Jersey City are familiar with it. I had to run from Journal Square to my high school, Hudson Catholic. When I got there, the only equipment on the racks was mine. And now I'm really sweating because I know Coach Agresta and them are going to hold me accountable. And so as the leader, I donned all my equipment, ran 2 miles to the field where we used to practice, called Lincoln Park in Jersey City. And when I got there, I got yelled at for being late because I was one of the captains. And it was a bad example for me to be late for practice. And so anyway, that's just a little story I had about, being accountable. I had to run another 2 miles after that. So you're listening to Monday Morning Motivation with Jimmy Green. I'm your host, Jimmy Green. The number to call is 866-451-1451. Love to hear from you. And we're live here on Bold Brave TV. We'll be back on the other side of the break talking about leadership.
Did you know that your beliefs create your entire reality, but it's the subconscious beliefs that do most of the creating? Belief shifter and life coach Shiraz can help you identify those limiting beliefs and eliminate them, often in a single session.
It was almost instant. I had relief right away.
Creating better health, relationships, careers, and finances. Let Shiraz help you step out of safety and into awareness.
Definitely something's happening. It's like a flow inside. It feels good.
Whether in person or online, Shiraz provides personal coaching, belief shifting. Visit Shiraz at energeticmagic.com. or call 416-529-7429. Energetic Magic on the BBM Global Network, Tuesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern. Find your greater happiness. Be well. Be aware. Be magical.
Are you struggling to care for elderly parents or a spouse? Do you wonder if being a caregiver is making you sick? Are you worried about taking time off work to care for elderly parents and balance work, life, and caregiving? Has caregiving become exhausting and emotionally draining? Are you an aging adult who wants to remain independent, but you're not sure how? I'm Pamela D. Wilson. Join me for the Caring Generation radio show for caregivers and aging adults, Wednesday evenings, 6 Pacific, 7 Mountain, 8 Central, and 9 Eastern, where I answer these questions and share tips for managing stress, family relationships, health, well-being, and more. Podcasts and transcripts of the Caring Generation are on my website, PamelaDWilson.com, plus my caregiving library, online caregiver support programs, and programs for corporations interested in supporting working caregivers. Help, hope, and support for caregivers is here on the Caring Generation and PamelaDWilson.com.
Morning. Welcome back to Monday Morning Motivation with Jimmy Green. I'm your host, Jimmy Green. We're coming to you live on Bold Brave TV. Today we're talking about leadership, and we're talking about 9/11, the 20-year anniversary, in addition to some football talk. Hopefully, if anybody wants to call in, the number to call is 866-451-1451. So what are some of the other things about leaders that are important? Character. One of my character counts is one of my favorite curriculum to recommend to people that Mr. Joseph, the Josephson Institute, Michael Josephson founded a program called Character Counts, and you can look him up at charactercounts.com or charactercounts.org, and he talks about the importance of honesty, integrity, accountability, ethics, big on ethics. Great stuff for teachers, by the way. I love his stuff. Citizenship, honesty, integrity, all of those qualities that you look for in leaders. And that curriculum is in a lot of different schools, and I hope it gets to a lot more of them. I'd like to get him on the show, Mr. Josephson, one day and see if he'll talk about all those different qualities of leadership. But I'd love, again, to hear from you. If you have any thoughts on leadership, who are some of your favorite leaders? I mean, the number to call is 866-451-1451. And just if anybody calls in, we'll take their call. I'm trying to think. Just throughout history, you think of people like Eisenhower, MacArthur, Patton are some of our great military leaders that brought us through some of the most difficult times in our history. Those guys, people followed them for a reason. They perhaps had courage, they had the charisma, they had the character. Through years and years of not only study, but practicing the art of leadership. Who else? Dr. Martin Luther King, great leader, right? Very charismatic, very well-spoken. He had a message that spoke to not just the mind, but also, more importantly, even to the heart. So Dr. King, that I have a dream speech. No one forgets that speech. Once you hear it, you just listen to it over and over again. And I still pray for that, those types of leaders that we need more of. We need people now more than ever in this times in which we find ourselves living. We need good leaders. We need people with the courage to stand up for what they believe in and what we believe in. Who else? Franklin Delano Roosevelt. After the attack on Pearl Harbor, that's a speech that I never forget. When he says, December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy. And he was more famous for also quoting, the only thing we have to fear is fear itself. And we've been talking about fear a lot on this show. That's something that a leader can be, I don't want to say afraid. Courage is not the absence of fear, as they say. It's just doing what you have to do in the face of fear. So courage, leaders need to have that kind of courage that is uncommon at times. Like I think again back to what I was talking about at the beginning of the show, when the first responders, the police and the firemen, looking up at that building and saying to themselves, I have to get up there because there's people I need to help, and waiting for that call from the commanding officers to say, okay, you go, and I'll be with you. And up they went. I would tend to say that there was a certain degree of fear in all of them, and yet they rose above that, were able to feel the fear and do it anyway. As we talked about in the previous show, to feel that fear but do it anyway. And so I think fondly of a young fella that I coached as a freshman in high school at Hudson Catholic. It was the only year I coached football in 1989, prior to my entering the seminary at Seton Hall. And I had a player by the name of David Lamagna. Some of you that are listeners here from Hudson Catholic might know of him. He was an EMT. I used to see him very frequently in the emergency room when years later. And then subsequently, after he graduated high school, became an EMT. He was a great person. Just a kid with a lot of character, real natural leader. And apparently he had been applied to the Port Authority Police, and 9 months prior to 9/11, he had become a Port Authority police officer. And on that fateful day, of course, it was all hands on deck. And David was, I think, stationed in Journal Square in Jersey City, and everybody was called over to New York. And talk about being a leader. The story was relayed to me that his commanding officer was injured inside one of the buildings, and he went into the building again, like running towards the danger when everyone else is, running away. And apparently he pulled his commanding officer out of one of the towers that day, and he went back in and tried to help more people, as a good leader would do, and apparently that was the last time anyone saw him. So, from a scriptural perspective, from a theological perspective, I'll say, in the scripture, Jesus of Nazareth would say, "Greater love has no one than that they lay down their life for a friend. Greater love has no man or woman than to lay down their life for a friend." And so we remember all of those people today, especially on the 13th of September, but we never forget. We never forget them. So people like David and all the different heroes out there. So again, the number to call is 866-451-1451. We're on Bold Brave TV, Monday Morning Motivation with Jimmy Green, and we'll be back on the other side of the break.
The opiate epidemic has reached crisis levels, and with so many families affected by addiction, opiate-related drug overdoses, and death, the time is now to have a real constructive conversation about addiction that could lead to better prevention, treatment, and recovery. Alan Charles, author and keynote speaker on drug abuse and prevention, presents The Alan Charles Show. Alan brings a message of hope, sharing his unbelievable story of surviving a 24-year addiction to cocaine and and highlights from his memoir, Walking Out the Other Side, an addict's journey from loneliness to life. His raw honesty and courageous heart breaks the stigma of addiction and offers a unique perspective into the mind of an addict. Join Alan each week as he brings his listeners to a true understanding of the grip of addiction. It is only with this understanding that we can begin to heal. The Alan Charles Show, Thursdays at 9 p.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network. Have you ever felt like no one is listening, or you're not getting the honest attention you deserve? Do you even know the kind of attention you want or need? You are not alone. Alice Aspen March is here to help. Thanks to Alice, through her epiphany and research over the word attention, there are solutions to the attention dilemma. Worldwide audiences have been enthralled and engaged for over 40 years with her visionary and pioneering observations. The kind of attention we get and give is vital to improving our lives and society. Alice and her weekly guests review game-changing insights for transforming and improving our understanding of attention, providing techniques for creating healthier and empowering behavior. Get a new perspective on a mainstream word. Tune into Why Our Attention Matters for fresh and thought-provoking conversations every Tuesday at 3 p.m. Eastern on boldbravemedia.com and the TuneIn Radio app.
Good morning. Welcome back to Monday Morning Motivation with Jimmy Green. I'm your host, Jimmy Green. We're coming to you live on Bold Brave TV, and today is September 13th. The number to call the show is 866-451-1451. We've been talking about leadership, and we've been talking about some football. So I wanted to talk a little bit more about leadership. We've had a lot of great leaders in our time that have changed the course of our history. Again, when like on Pearl Harbor, you might guess history was my favorite subject in school. I'm a big history buff. I had great history teachers throughout my life, particularly in high school. I had one brother, a Christian brother named Brother Tim Ahern, who wasn't just in the history class, he was into the history class. He just taught us about these types of events. I mean, when he talked about the Civil War, I mean, he brought in tangible things that we could see that were from the Civil War, let's say, or just the way he spoke about history. He was inspiring, and he was a leader too. He was the baseball coach. He was a great teacher. Most of the teachers we had there were great in one way or another in their own right, because they're passionate about it. Teaching in a parochial or Catholic school isn't something that a lot of people always do for the money. They do it because it's their calling, it's their vocation, and they try to turn us young men, because I went to an all boys high school at the time, young men into good young boys into good men. And that's what we learned from people like the brothers that we had there and the teachers that we had. They were leaders. They had character. They had passion about their subjects. And again, in history, we learned about the different leaders. Like, as I said, FDR, famous for the only thing we have to fear is fear itself. After our country was attacked in Pearl Harbor, a whole nation is looking to one man. They're looking to the president at the time to say, hey, what are we going to do? We've just been attacked, and what's your plan? And he was very poignant and very factual in saying that we needed to not be afraid. The thing we had to fear was the fear itself. And that still resonates to today, in my opinion, where what we've just gone through all these past almost 2 years now, there's a lot of fear. And I've been trying to tell my clients and my friends and family to put faith over fear. because fear, as Les Brown often says, one of my other favorite motivational speakers, fear kills hope. Fear kills dreams. Fear will age you. Fear put people in the hospital. So we have to look at leaders like FDR and those types of individuals over the years that showed the way. Like I said earlier in the show, a leader is one who knows the way, who goes the way, shows the way, and then goes the way. Another leader I think about historically is Winston Churchill. He had a very interesting sense of humor. There was one funny story where a woman once said to him, Sir Churchill, if I were married to you, I'd give you poison to drink. And his immediate, well, maybe not so immediate, but his quip was, Madam, if I was married to you, I'd drink it. Things like that he would say. What's another one that Winston Churchill, he would say about, let's say, freedom of speech. He'd say some people's idea of freedom of speech is that they could say whatever they want. But if you say anything back, that is an outrage. These are things that stick, in my mind, these little quotes, because again, with the attention deficits I've had in my life, acronyms that I use a lot here on the show and quotes that I use, they stick in my mind. So forgive me if I use a lot of them, but that's the way I learned from my coaches, is to use these things to my advantage. Let's talk sports. Don Shula. I grew up a Dolphin fan. And Don Shula was one of the best coaches probably in the history of the NFL. He had, I can't even remember now off the top of my head how many wins he had. And one of the things I've admired about him over the years as a theologian is that it's my understanding that he was a daily mass attender, or what we call in the Catholic faith a daily communicant. So he started his day out with God and went from there. And I've tried to emulate that lately, especially over the last year and a half or so, tried to start my day with some kind of spirituality or some kind of prayer. Especially for me, it's, Mass like Don Shula. And I think when you take that 1 hour, perhaps in the beginning of a day, whenever it is, it doesn't have to be Mass, it doesn't have to be the Rosary like myself, or whatever, but meditation or reading a good book or listening. Particularly, I do this a lot. There's so much on YouTube now as far as motivation is concerned. Some of these things I listen to over and over again, and they just can change your whole day. So, you talk about leaders, they're out there, there's so much ability to get information today than ever before. So what I'm saying is leaders, I think they read positive books. They surround themselves with positive people. They have character. They have charisma. They have courage, even in the face of fear. What did John Wayne say? Courage is being scared to death, but saddling up anyway. And so, as we close out this segment of the show, again, I want to just repeat that quote: "A leader is one who knows the way, shows the way, and goes the way." We'll be back, talk a little bit football to wrap up the show, and talk about some upcoming shows. The number to call is 866-451-1451. You've been watching Monday Morning Motivation with your host, Jimmy Green. And we're coming to you live on Bold Brave TV. And we'll be back on the other side of the break.
What if there were a super tiny device that could diagnose the brain and is smaller than a single human hair? What if you could see inside the brain to help an epilepsy patient during surgery, or to help the fight against Parkinson's disease? Dr. Patricia Broderick is proud to announce the Broderick Probe, a biomedical and electronic breakthrough. Imagine a probe to help with the understanding and potential cure of brain-related diseases. To learn more, listen live to the Easy Sense radio show with host Dr. Broderick, Wednesdays 7 p.m. Eastern on the Bold Brave Media Network and TuneIn Radio. And to help support the Broderick Foundation, please go to EasySense.com and learn how, with your help, we can fight these horrific brain disorders. That's EasySense.com to learn more and help support the Broderick Foundation. Author, radio show host, and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness, Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth, published by iUniverse. Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them, rediscover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies, find settings that allow them to be the most productive, and track their progress towards accomplishing goals. Listen to John Hawkins' My Strategy, Saturdays, 1 p.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio.
Good morning. Welcome back to Monday Morning Motivation with Jimmy Green. I'm your host, Jimmy Green, coming to you live on Bold Brave TV. So we've come to the last segment of the show. Nobody out there wants to call in today. What's going on? Everybody's at work, I guess. 866-451-1451 is the number to call. We were talking about leadership. As I said, just one last quote on leadership. Leadership is about empathy. It's about having the ability to relate and connect with people for the purpose of inspiring and empowering their lives. So, as I said often on this show, it's about you. This is the WIIFY show. What's in it for you? So as we go along towards the end of the show, I would like you to look up my Facebook page, Monday Morning Motivation with Jimmy Green. If you have any ideas, suggestions about the show, comments, things I can do better, just let me know. As we close out football, as I said, football is back. Tough weekend for the New York teams, of course. Last night, the Giants suffered a defeat. I believe the Jets lost as well. My favorite college team, Notre Dame, squeaked by Toledo. What was it, 31-29, I heard, something like that. I didn't get to watch the game. But it's good to see people back out and about, whatever it is, sports, nature. Just get out there, folks. Let's live life. Let's go out there and make a difference. That's what this program is all about. You know, good, bad, or indifferent. You know, it ain't perfect, but I'll tell you what. As long as I have the time, I'm going to try to do what I can for you. So just two last things before I go. One of the next shows, as I said, I'm going to do a review on a book called Happiness is an Inside Job. Think about that title. Happiness is an Inside Job by John Powell, S.J. He's a Jesuit priest. He's deceased now. But again, great book if you want to learn techniques about how to maintain your inner peace. And how to find true happiness in life. So Happiness is an Inside Job. I highly recommend that book. It's about 160 pages. It'll change your life. Throughout the last 18 or so months, as I said, there's been a lot of fear, a lot of different things going on in our world that are not necessarily in our control. But one of the things that I took advantage of was to take a course called Situational Awareness for Employees. You can see that there, 6 Steps to Behavioral Analysis by the founder, Yusuf Badu. He was my instructor. I did a lot of research and reading on situational awareness, threat detection, behavioral analysis, just things that we want to be aware of, things that are going on around us, just to be aware, not in a I don't want to say paranoid way as a former counselor, but So what I want to do is review that with you as well. 6 steps, and basically the course is how to spot violence before it happens. Hopefully you never have to use this stuff, but I studied it for about 8 months, became certified in it, and I'm going to give a course on it, offer an in-person course at some point. It's called Situational Awareness for Employees. You can find it at emergencedisrupt.com. And again, this book by Father Michael Judge, talked about him earlier, the book of Michael. He was a great leader on 9/11. That's coincidentally a picture of him after the crash of TWA 800 years ago. He was a great leader, great man, and that's what we'll talk about in a future show. So that just about does it for today for Monday Morning Motivation. I'm your host, Jimmy Green. We're coming to you again live on Bold Brave TV, and we'll see you next week. And until then, as my old coach Gresta always says, don't count the days, make the days count.
This has been Monday Morning Motivation with your host, Jimmy Green. Tune in each week for a supercharged dose of inspiration, self-help advice, and personal growth strategies on the next episode of Monday Morning Motivation with Jimmy Green.
You've been listening to the BBM Global Network. The ideas, views, and opinions of this broadcast are those of the participants of the program and are not necessarily the ideas, views, and opinions of the BBM Global Network Company.